So is Kentucky a football school now? In the last 5 years, Kentucky football has double the amount of bowl wins that Kentucky basketball has Sweet 16 appearances. Something to think about. All jokes aside, though, Mark Stoops continues to do a phenomenal job with this Wildcats football program, and 2023 will be no exception, as the Wildcats should have another successful season in Lexington. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad that you could join us today. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in our description below, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country, guys, beating out over 80% of the national handicappers each of the last 5 years. Each of the last 5 years. If you're looking for a place with guaranteed winnings, a place that you can guarantee a winning record, a place where you can win guaranteed money, this is the place for you. Go sign up today. One-time fee for a year-long subscription. We guarantee you'll make that money back like that. Check out our Patreon account as well. Exclusive college football content there year-round. Become a member of our Patreon Wall of Fame to gain access to that exclusive content. And check out our mailing address down in the description below. Send us some gear to represent your favorite team in every single Gridiron Expert video as we expand our GE Nation from coast to coast. And we'd love to get some more SEC gear. Certainly we'd love to get some more Kentucky gear as well. So let's take a look at the Wildcats, guys. This is a good Kentucky team. Had a very strong start to last year, rose, nearly to the top 10, and kind of fell apart after that. That game against Ole Miss, when they lost to Ole Miss, things kind of started to fall apart. That was a close game, 22-19, where I just felt like Kentucky kept shooting themselves in the foot. And to finish up the year with 7 victories, a bowl loss to Iowa, shutout bowl loss to Iowa. It was not the way they wanted to end things. But this year, they have a chance to be better than they were in 2022. And that starts on the offensive side of the ball. They were not that impressive last year, only 20.4 points per game. Will Levis not really panning out the way we thought that he would last season. But 10 starters are now back. And they landed one of the biggest transfers in all of college football, landing Devin Leary at quarterback. Coming in from NC State, where he threw for over 6,800 yards, completed over 60% of his passes for 62 touchdowns, just 16 interceptions in 4 years at the Wolfpack. Unbelievable. He's got a great arm. He's extremely accurate. He takes great care of the football, and if he can stay healthy, he's going to be a huge, huge boost for this Kentucky offense. You look at the running back position. Chris Rodriguez is gone. That's a shame, but they do return. I bring in Ray Davis in from Vanderbilt. Davis rushing for over 1,000 yards last year with the Commodores. So you lose Chris Rodriguez, who's fantastic. Davis is going to be a great job filling that hole. The top 5 pass catchers are back this year for Kentucky, including Berrien Brown and Dane Key. So some great weapons for Devin Leary. This is an offense, guys, that they couldn't even average 3 touchdowns last year, but should take a huge step forward. Only concern offensively is their offensive line. Kentucky's offensive line giving up 47 sacks last year, but 4 starters are back up front, so you see some significant improvement. The defense, per usual, strong under Mark Stoops, 19.2 points per game. That's all they gave up last year. Only gave up 311 yards per game. Only 171 passing yards per game. Secondary, extremely strong. Rushing defense, not fantastic, but not bad either. Got De'Aaron Jackson and Jordan Lovett both returning as the top 2 tacklers from last year. This defense, per usual, should be solid once again. I'd expect around similar numbers that they put up in 2022. So across the board, guys, it looks like Kentucky is going to be a better team than they were last year. At least on paper, they've got all the pieces necessary to be really solid and maybe to make some noise in an SEC East that really we're only talking about Georgia and Tennessee right now. But take a look at the schedule. Really, really favorable, especially early on. That's where Kentucky needs to do the majority of their damage in terms of just kind of clinching that bowl eligibility early, kind of getting their feet wet, getting the new players in like Leary and Davis. I can tell you right now that I think Kentucky starts a quick 4-0 like that. The non-conference is a breeze early on. Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, Akron, no issues there. And I do think they get revenge over Vanderbilt. They lost to Vanderbilt 24-21 at home last year. Vanderbilt's not a bad team, guys. They're improving under Clark Lee. They've got a competent quarterback in A.J. Swan, got a lot of pass catchers back. The defense returns 8. Would not be shocked if Vanderbilt won 2 straight over Kentucky, but I think the improved offense is the difference maker here, plus the revenge factor. I just don't see the Wildcats losing 2 in a row. This team is too good. They're too well coached to drop 2 in a row to Vanderbilt. Then they get the win over the Commodores to be 4-0, and I think at home against Florida, they make it 5-0. So a 5-0 start for the Wildcats very well could have them in the top 20, maybe top 15, but the strength of the schedule not good enough, I think, to get them to that point. But this is a top 25 team heading into the month of October. They beat Florida by 10 last year on the road. They've won 3 of the last 5 against the Gators. The defense is ultimately the key in this game. I don't have a whole lot of faith in Florida's offense right now. Major questions at quarterback, whether it's Graham Mertz or Jack Miller. Neither of those really scares me if I'm Kentucky, especially with as strong as my secondary is going to be. If you can stack the box and you can stop the run, which is what Florida's going to want to do, they're going to want to run the football. If you do that, you're fine. Kentucky's defense was the reason that they beat the Gators in the Swamp last year, getting a couple of crucial interceptions off of Anthony Richardson, playing some great ball in the Swamp, upsetting, if you will, the Gators after their big win over Utah. The defense shows up in big-time fashion again and wins convincingly at home against the Gators team that I think will struggle in 2023. So just like that, Kentucky navigates the month of September unscathed. They're 5-0. They're looking great, which sets up a pretty big showdown at Georgia. Should be an undefeated showdown against the Bulldogs in Athens. Kentucky played them close last year, only lost 16-6, and you can't help but wonder if Kentucky had a little bit of a better offense, could they have beat Georgia last year? You never know. It's one of those hypotheticals, right? This year, I think they put up more than 6 points against Georgia, but it won't be by that much. I think maybe 13, 14 points at the max. This Georgia defense is still way too good. The offense just is reloaded. Carson Beck's going to be great. Their rushers are back. Their top pass catchers are back. It's in Athens. Kentucky's not winning this game, but if it makes you feel any better, I don't know if anybody's beaten Georgia this year. Have a very good chance to repeat as national champions again. Could win 3 straight national titles. So Kentucky drops their first game of the year. They lose to Georgia. But before the bye week, they played Missouri at home, and they clinched bowl eligibility. Boom! How about that? 6-1 before the bye week. You going bowling again? Kentucky basketball. You better hurry up and make sure you get to a Sweet 16. That's all I'm going to say. But they beat Missouri 21-17 last year. They beat them in controversial fashion. That roughing the punter call really bailing Kentucky out in the end. I know Missouri fans are still a little bitter about that one. But now you get this game at home. So you've got home field advantage in a game between two teams that are going to have pretty strong defenses per usual. Missouri, maybe one could argue, could have the defensive edge in this game. Really, really solid. But Kentucky, to me, certainly owns the offensive edge. So much experience back from some starters that were there last year and the transfers that they're bringing in as well. So you look at that home field advantage, the offensive edge, I think eventually it wears down Missouri because Kentucky's defense no slouch either. Then they beat the Tigers 6-1 heading into the bye week, and that's when things get tough. So you see what we're saying here, right? Arguably, the toughest game in those first 7 games is the road game at Georgia. Every other game, there's a very good chance Kentucky's favored in them, which means they need to win them. Because those final few games of the year, those final 5, 3 of them are on the road, and the 2 that are at home are against Tennessee, who Kentucky lost to 44-6 last year, and then Alabama, arguably the best team in the West and obviously a legitimate national title contender. So you come out of the bye week, you play Tennessee, where Kentucky has struggled just all the time, right? They have been destroyed by Tennessee their entire program history. They lost to the Volunteers 44-6 last year. They were outgained 422 yards to 205 yards. Yes, the game's at home. Yes, Kentucky is well rested. Yes, Tennessee is coming off a game against Alabama, whether it's a Bama hangover or a letdown game. If they beat Alabama for the second year in a row, I don't really think it matters because I don't think Kentucky wins this game. I think Tennessee is still way too good offensively. Joe Milton is phenomenal. Was phenomenal during the time he replaced Hendon Hooker last year. He's one of the strongest arms in all of college football. Their top 2 running backs are returning. They've got a great wide receiver core. The defense was great last year. The secondary, a bit of a concern. This is a game where I think Kentucky scores more than 6 points, but you're just not beating Tennessee. It's one of those things where we know Kentucky's done it. We've seen it happen a few times under Mark Stoops. But when in doubt, typically you pick Tennessee over the Wildcats, and I still believe Tennessee, across all aspects, is the better team in this game. Home field advantage is something that the Volunteers can't overcome. So Kentucky drops the game to Tennessee. They go on the road to Mississippi State. I think they drop the game to the Bulldogs. Some will say, how? How are we losing to Mississippi State? Well, here's an interesting fact for you. Mark Stoops at Kentucky, 0-11 on the road against SEC West teams. 0-11. He has not defeated a team from the SEC West on the road since arriving at Kentucky. It should also be noted that the home team in this series between Kentucky and Mississippi State has won every game since 2015. They're just alternating. If it's in Starkville, Mississippi State's going to win. If it's in Lexington, Kentucky's going to win. This year, it's in Mississippi State. It's in Starkville. I like the Bulldogs here because while unfortunately they do not have Mike Leach, they still have one of the better quarterbacks in the conference in Will Rogers. They're going to be a little bit more balanced, which is going to make it a little bit tougher for defense to stop. The defense is going to be solid for the Bulldogs. Again, Zach Arnett was the defensive coordinator last year. He's now the head coach for the Bulldogs. I really think that defense is going to be better than people think, and they're going to be good at stopping the run. They're going to make Kentucky one-dimensional. Can Devin Leary win the game through the air? 100%, especially with that wide receiver core that we just mentioned. Is he going to win the game through the air? I don't think so. I think Mississippi State gets a huge win at home. Kentucky has dropped their second game in a row. I definitely do not think they're beating Alabama. I think they play Alabama close for about a half, but the Crimson Tide pull away in their first game in Lexington since 2013. Wildcats, though, lost 7 straight to the Crimson Tide. Then they go on the road to South Carolina. Alabama, it was senior day. Last home game of the year. It's an unfortunate, it's not a great opportunity, but not one that I think the Wildcats can capitalize off of. So they're still kind of stagnant at 6 wins. You're going bowling, but you want to add to that. Get 7, get 8, get somewhere, right? Well, I think 7 is going to be their max if they can even get that. I don't think they're beating South Carolina. I don't think they're beating South Carolina on the road. They fell to the Gamecocks 24-14 last year. I love Shane Beamer. He's doing a phenomenal job in Columbia. Back-to-back winning seasons. Last year, a phenomenal job defending home field, beating Tennessee on senior day, then going on the road and beating Clemson, ruining 2 playoff hopes of the Volunteers and the Tigers in back-to-back weeks. The Gamecocks now, at home, we know it's a very difficult place to play, especially late in the year. Spencer Rattler returns as one of the better quarterbacks in the conference. The defense, especially in the secondary, extremely underrated. If Kentucky wants to win this game, I really think they're going to have to really pound the rock with Ray Davis. They're going to have to pound the rock on the ground. Can they do that? 100%, especially considering South Carolina gave up nearly 200 rushing yards per game last year. But I do believe that Shane Beamer has his squad ready to go. I believe he's going to have them ready. They got 4 straight home games to conclude the year. This is the 3rd straight home game they're going to be playing in. South Carolina's going to have clinch bowl eligibility at this point. They're going to be looking to add to their win total. Home field advantage late November at Williams-Brice Stadium. It's a real thing. It's tough to win there. I just don't think Kentucky can do it. Don't think they're able to do that. The South Carolina team is not too shabby. Which means still at 6 wins, they're 6-5. If they finish at 500, do they get their 7th win? They play Louisville, a team they've kind of dominated. The roles have been reversed. For years, Louisville has dominated Kentucky. Now the roles have been reversed. The Wildcats have won 4 straight games against the Cardinals, every single one of those by double digits. They've won 5 of the last 6 games, and they've won each of the last 3 at Louisville. They won 26-13 last year, for what it's worth. Games on the road, many would say, hey, Louisville's going to win this game. I'm going to say no. No, I like Kentucky in this game. It's one of those things that right now, I need to see Louisville do it. I need to see Louisville beat Kentucky before I can pick the Cardinals to do it. Because right now, Kentucky has owned them for the last few years. And Louisville now bringing in a new head coach in Jeff Brom. I think it's a fantastic hire. I think Louisville's going to be a solid team this year. They're not going to go through the traditional growing pains that teams typically have to go through with their new head coach. He's a good coach. They've got an experienced quarterback in Jack Plummer. I don't think he's a world beater, but I don't think he's bad. And I think the defense is salty, guys. That's actually going to be the difference maker here. It's the Kentucky offense, the offensive line, I should say, going to be able to handle that Louisville defensive line. 47 sacks allowed by Kentucky last year. Louisville had 50 sacks defensively last year. But Louisville does lose a lot of that production on that defensive line. And it should be noted that despite the poor offensive line, Kentucky only gave up 2 sacks to Louisville last year. Offensive line is 10 times better. The road game, the home field advantage doesn't really faze me if I'm Kentucky. I like the Wildcats a lot in this game. Have they on the offensive edge? Defensively, I'd say they're about even. Maybe give the edge slightly to Louisville, but with the new coach, it's going to be tough. They can overcome home field advantage. They can overcome the road woes. Kentucky beats Louisville in the season finale, make it 5 straight, although I do think it's closer than it's been in years past. Kentucky finishes the year at 7-5 for the second year in a row. Second year in a row, they finish with a 7-5 record, which means they're going to go to a decent bowl game. Hopefully, they don't play Iowa. I thought it was lazy by the bowl committee, by the bowl committees. They had to play Iowa back-to-back years. But I think they do get to another solid bowl game. They have a shot at another 8-win season. And really, if you're a Kentucky fan, you got to be happy with that, right? I mean, Mark Stoops continues to deliver. He's consistent. In the SEC East, that's right now dominated with Georgia and Tennessee and up-and-comers like South Carolina, it's going to be hard to contend for a division crown. That's not the expectation in Lexington this year. The expectation is to be competitive, to improve a little bit from last year, and to go to another decent bowl game. And I think that happens All of those. I think every single one of those things happens for the Wildcats this year. I love Mark Stoops. I love what they're doing in Lexington. It's going to be another solid year. Now John Calipari and the basketball team, it's all up to you. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below, including those expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com, our Patreon account for exclusive college football content year-round, and check out our mailing address down in the description below. Send us some gear to represent your team in every single Gridiron Expert video. Every single one. We'd love to have your team in our background as we expand our GE Nation from coast to coast. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.